money being paid in, and then you can change these agreements all the time. So I can always change, you know, I want 15% off the money to come back to me, or I want it donated somewhere else. It could go somewhere else, or even I could do a profit share. Every time a book is sold, 10% goes to my editor, 10% goes to my cover designer, up until a certain point. So I guess coming back to your question, it's about freedom, and it's also about what is it that the author wants to do, because on the other platforms like Kickstarter and Unbound and the other people, there are certain terms and conditions. You've got that middle layer who are controlling everything. You can't necessarily connect directly with your fans. But when you're using blockchain, I know it's anonymous, but if someone loves your work, you can always say, you can sign up here, give me your email address, and when you release your next book, send them an email and say, my book is now being sold on the blockchain. Here's the link, go and buy it.
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
Yeah. So a few small little ones.
Sure.
Firstly, just on the monetization front of the blockchain, I understand that you get the instant payment, but
Yeah.
surely someone could then just gift the item out for free. So they've bought it and they then own it and they just give it out for free multiple times, and then you have actually received nothing from it.
Yeah.
I understand if they were to sell it on, you'd get a commission. So
Yeah,
that part.
so
And then also if you could just mention a bit about how you moved from your previous day job that you didn't enjoy as much into this whole crypto world.
Yeah,
If you,
sure.
I didn't quite understand the bridge there across. Did you don't wake up suddenly the next day as a full-blown cryptographer?
Sure,
What was
okay.
that link? Yeah.
Okay,
great,
cool.
thanks.
So your first question, the blockchain or DLT, distributed ledger, is governed by smart contracts. So any transaction that happens is governed by the smart contract. And that smart contract is essentially a set of codes or commands which have to take place in order for that transaction to occur. So I, as an author, can actually program in that this particular book cannot be gifted for free. So I can actually specifically say that. So if someone tries to give it away for free, the options won't come up. So what I can do instead is every time this book changes hands, 10% of that resale price goes back to the original content creator. And I can change that with every, you know, every revision I do. So some people are thinking of, you know, doing 10%, or some of them, some of the authors are thinking of doing a wholesale approach, whereby I can purchase 100 copies of these at a very discounted price, and then my job is just to resell them. And then every time I resell them, I get a cut and the author gets a cut. So you might be thinking, why would an author do this? Essentially, it's marketing. You know, if I've got someone who's reselling my books on my behalf, and we're doing it a 50-50 deal, I'd be really happy about that. Because for authors and creatives, and I think for a lot of us, it's about discoverability. That is the biggest challenge that authors actually have. So this whole reseller concept is actually a very positive thing. So does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Second one. Okay, so I started off, you know, I always tell people I checked off all the boxes. I did what my mom and dad wanted me to do. Went to college, went to university, didn't know what I wanted to do. And everybody was just, I did economics. Everyone was going into internships at all these big banks. So I thought, okay, I'll do the same. I got into Citigroup, and I think I was on my third day. And I just thought, wow, this is just really not the place for me. And then I stayed in that environment for like 10 years. So basically what I was doing was, after 2 years, I left and joined a management consultancy. I was traveling around the world, enjoying it for a little while. And then after 6 years, I thought, this is really not what I really want to do. I really want to get out. And then I decided to go into, I set up my own financial consultancy. So I was contracting for banks. So I was essentially doing the same job I was doing before, but getting paid like 3 times more than the sucker sat next to me. So I was like, okay, this is quite a good gig. But then after 3 years, there was just something nagging in me all the time, saying that this isn't the right place for you. Don't want to make any generalizations, but banking was, well, maybe the people I worked with the exception of Chantel, because I actually worked, yeah, Chantel and I actually worked together. No, yeah. So yeah, they were just pretty miserable people. They didn't really enjoy what they were doing. And then us, you know, that guy who was 40 years old with that really sad looking balloon. So I didn't want to be that person. I really wanted to do something that I enjoyed. So whilst during the last 4 to 5 years, whilst I was in the corporate world, I started to go to meetups. I was part of Escape the City. Any of you guys heard of? Yeah. Okay. I was going to events from Escape the City. Escape the City is an organization that helps professionals find jobs that they love. So, you know, you might be an accountant, but you can be an accountant rather than being in a bank. You could be an accountant in Hawaii, working in a nature reserve or something like that. So I started to explore different options, and I had lots of, you know, there were loads of U-turns and dead ends. I set up a number of businesses. I also trained as a coach, did coaching for a year, then decided it wasn't me because I kind of got bored of listening to people moaning at me all the time. And I just found I wasn't a really good listener, and you have to be quite a good listener when you're a coach. So that didn't work out. And then I was writing books. I didn't expect to make millions from it, but you know, because books is a long game, it's something that comes out. And then I was doing a couple of workshops, and then I started property site. That didn't work out. And then I came into the jewelry business. I joined my co-founder, who was looking for some help to put together the structure and governance. We ran that business for about two and a half years. We actually took that business to revenues of 26 million over a 3-year period, but it was not profitable. We just didn't have the right deals with the manufacturers, and the business was completely offline. So it was very, very, very manual. And so Market Orders is actually a culmination of all of that previous experience, and it's a completely online marketplace. And using all of the experiences and learnings, we've now secured better deals, and I'm actually going through a fundraising round. So I'm raising £500,000 from angels and VCs, and then I'm also doing an ICO and looking to raise around 20 million. And then yeah, and then just building out the business. And then I started to get involved in the crypto space about a year ago. So my background was banking and finance, and as I was leaving the banking world, I started to see that this crypto stuff was coming up. So I just started to read. I'm a big reader. I was going to loads of meetups. So, you know, my advice if for any of you guys is, if you want to escape the cubicle, get my book. Or not necessarily. If you want a free copy, I'm happy to send you guys a copy. So just let me know. But what I always tell people is just follow your passions, follow what interests you, because that is the only thing that's going to get you out of bed. And that's what I was doing. So whilst I was at the day job, I was just spending loads of my time reading articles that I found interesting, going to meetups where I wanted to be with those types of people. And then I was going to female founder entrepreneurial events. And then I was just talking to those people and asking them, how did you set up your business and what did you do to get out of it? And then my last tip would just be finances is very, very important. It's always good to be in a good financial position before you jump out and try to follow your passions and dreams, because we do live in a materialistic world and you do need to pay your rent and eat. So what I did was, for the last 2 years, whilst I was in the corporate world, I just saved and I sold practically everything, including my car. I downsized, just moved to a studio apartment, and I was making packed lunches for 2 years. I didn't, you know, buy £3 coffees or teas anymore. I just had a nice box of PG tips on my desk, and I would just make that. So I did make a lot of sacrifices. My socializing went down quite a lot, but I'm really glad I made that trade-off, because I do think in life you do sometimes have to make some sacrifices and trade-offs. But if you want something bad enough, you know, it can happen if you want it. And for me, making that move was probably the best decision I ever made. I always felt like it was something I wanted to do, but sometimes it does take time. So if you are thinking of doing that, just make sure you have some funds to keep you going for about a year or a year and a half, and just believe in yourself. Because when you strike out on your own, a lot of people will also say that you can't do it, or your business model is not good enough, or, you know, you're not good enough. I had one VC who said he'll only invest in me if I left the company. And I was like, let me think about that for half a second. No, it's not going to happen. So it's about having that courage to really believe in yourself and just going for it. And, you know, things don't always, you know, there's no such thing as an overnight success. There are many, many failures and many, many learnings. And actually, I don't think it's failure at all. I call it feedback. It's only a failure if you just stop there. So I hope that answers your question. But if you would like a free copy of my book, just send me a note, and happy to share that with you guys. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Hi.
So my question is about ICO.
Yep.
I want to know why would people want to invest in ICO? Because there are so many cryptocurrencies, they can buy them, they can do a lot of shopping
Mhm.
with that.
Yeah.
So if they buy your ICO, it
Yep.
will be only used for your jewelry.
Yep.
So why would someone spend the money on something like that, especially if they don't know your jewelry or stuff and they're new to it? They can just buy it by money from some
Sure.
other retailers.
It's a great question. It's such a great question. So yes, why would I want to do an ICO and why would people want to invest? So anyone who actually has an interest in gold or gold jewelry would probably be the first wave of people who would invest in my ICO. And they would want to invest because they want to be part of the project. They see value in it and they want to grow with it. The token can only be used in the market orders ecosystem that we're creating, but we don't just want to have gold jewelry on our platform. We are actually going to expand it to diamonds as well, but that's just one vertical that we're looking at because we actually are a service provider for SMEs. So what we're really essentially doing is helping small independent retailers get better products and better deals and discounts directly from the manufacturers. So they're really going through wholesalers and those distributors. So any industry that has a wholesaler, we can actually jump in and do the same. So what my vision is this market orders token, so it's called MOT. I'm hoping that I can actually use this in a lot more industries. And with my customers, they currently purchase from me and pay to me in pounds. I'm going to give them the option to get like a 10% discount on the price of the products if they choose to use the MOT token, because that's how I drive the value of my token up. And as the value of my token increases, it becomes a token that is desirable in the ecosystem. And you're right, there's many tokens out there, there's many coins, but not all of them are doing very well. And in the world of ICOs, actually the market dynamics have gone back to what they should have been. So it's pure supply and demand. If something is hot property, the value of it goes up. But in today's economy, the pound and the USD, it's all pegged and the government's flush cash in artificially. So it's almost like a fake economy. But doing an ICO, it's very much a real essence of how your company is performing. So for me, I'm doing an ICO because I have come across a lot of challenges and barriers in raising money through angels and VCs. I found that the ecosystem now is quite saturated. Almost everyone says that they're an investor, but a lot of them are very unsophisticated investors. And as a co-founder and someone who's running their business for 2 years, it's been quite time consuming and really draining. I think I took 100 meetings over 3 months earlier on this year in January. And I was just listening to all the angels and the VCs giving me feedback. And I think it was one morning when in the morning I pitched to a particular investor and they said, "Oh, I'd love to invest in you. The only thing is you've just got way too many pictures in your pitch deck." And I was like, okay, that's quite shit feedback. And then on the afternoon, I went to another investor and they said, "Oh, I'd love to invest in you, but the only thing is you don't have enough pictures in your pitch deck." So I was just like, okay, I really don't think I'm talking to the right people. And I didn't feel it was the right place for me to raise the money. And for me, doing an ICO is so liberating. It's so empowering. I can now choose exactly how much money I want to raise. I know exactly where I'm going to spend the cash. I don't have to get permission from people who don't know nothing about my business and getting them to give me the cash. This is just a very empowering way to actually raise funds. So I personally think, so I was speaking at a blockchain summit last week, a couple of days, last week. And we had this discussion, what's going to happen to the VCs when ICOs are, happening everywhere. But I think it's just, the truth is, the public will speak and the people with money in their pockets vote with their cash. And if a lot of people are now funding ICOs, it means that they are now wanting to put money directly into a business they're passionate about rather than going through a broker or someone who doesn't always tell them the truth. So it's that transparency issue. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Great.
I think in the interest of time, yeah.
Okay, great.
Let's make it last.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Sukhi.
You're welcome.
I think it was very interesting insight into how
Oh
you
my
can
God.
get involved with
So yeah, next up is Ella. She's from Thomson Reuters Lab, and she's the CFO